Hey there, Edmonton Real Estate Investors Association. It's Ivan Abelar, your president and your realtor. What's coming up right in a moment here is my real estate coach, and he's going to be touching on, how 2020, ended up statistically, and kind of the vision, of where we're coming from and where we're going in 2021. Valuable information. It's geared towards realtors, but you as investors, especially those that are full-time, investors, this is valuable information that you can take back to, joint venture partners, any buyers you're dealing with, any sellers you're dealing with, and just for personal knowledge and making sure that you have as much information as possible when you make some very big decisions with some big dollars. When obviously real estate is a big investment game. So hopefully you find this information useful. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Obviously my contact information is somewhere in this video or below or to the side of it. So here you go. I know you'll find it useful. Talk to you soon.
Hey everyone, Richard Robbins here. Hope you're well. Welcome to 2021. Got to be better than 2020, right? Anyway, I have your market update for the Edmonton Real Estate Board. So there's a few things we're going to do today. First, I want to compare December of 2019 to December of 2020. Also, what I want to do is I want to give you a quarterly update of last year because it's very interesting based on COVID, and I can show you the sales numbers for each quarter and how the second quarter, which generally is the busiest quarter of the year, was definitely not, but then it got much stronger after that. Then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to show you the last 5 years of total sales for your market and where you stand in 2020. Also show you prices for the last 5 years, and then I'll give you sort of my prediction as to what's going to happen in 2021. Just keep in mind, doesn't mean it's going to be right, just means my thoughts. Okay, so first of all, you should see in your screen there, this is your December numbers year over year. You can see in December of 2019, you did 845 sales, but we did 1,107 in December of 2020. Now, here's what's really interesting. I want you to look down where it says MOI. That's months of inventory. So again, if you look at your market, 4 to 6 is a balanced market. Above 6 months of inventory is going to be a buyer's market, and below 4 is going to move into more of a seller's market territory. So really interesting. If you go back to 2019, you had 7.1 months of inventory. Let's face it, that's definitely buyer market territory. Prices would be weakening slightly, again, depending on some property type. Some property type has less inventory than others. And then, of course, you look at December of this past year, well, you're at 4.5. So you've moved very much into a balanced market and creeping towards a seller's market. And in some property types, like sort of inexpensive detached properties that are accessible to a lot of people, you definitely are probably getting multiple offers and you're in a seller's market. Because remember, every property type will have different months of inventory. I'm just giving you the overall months of inventory. What about prices? Well, if you look at December 2019, you're at 354. Of course, December of 2020, you're sitting at 362. So your price is up year over year by about 2.5%. Obviously, good news compared to what Edmonton has been faced with over the last number of years. Here's your quarterly numbers, and this is what I found really interesting. So you can see the first quarter of the year, your numbers were almost the same. We did 3,008 sales opposed to 3,022. You can't get much closer than that. But look what happened in the second quarter, which is generally the busiest quarter of the year. We did 5,476 in 19, and in 20, we did 3,958. Of course, COVID. March 15th, everything went crazy for a little while. Nobody knew what to do. People were trying to figure things out. People were scared. They weren't listing. They weren't selling. They weren't buying. Nothing was really happening. But then look what happened after that. We move into the third quarter of the year, went from 48.79 up to 59.20. That's a substantial increase, probably due to pent-up demand. Plus, people were starting to get comfortable with COVID. They're getting comfortable listing their home. They're getting comfortable with going out and looking at homes, or even doing it virtually, if you will. So what happened, this pent-up demand all of a sudden took off. And of course, All the rest of the fundamentals for a good market were great. We had very low interest rates. So, mortgages were affordable for a lot of people. And then you move into the last quarter. Well, again, very, very good news. You can see we were to 3,280 in 19, went to 4,176, which again is amazing. And if you even look at the average price in 19, it was 354. And this is the average price of the quarter, by the way. Okay, a little bit different than the year, where it was 374 in the last quarter, even though in December prices did weaken a little bit, which they generally do in December. So nothing surprising. Okay, 5-year history of sales. Here's your numbers, everybody. 17,399 back in 16. 17, which was the busiest year in all of Alberta for almost all marketplaces, you did 17,539 sales. But then we know, we're dealing with some oil price problems and other things going on, pipeline problems. We dropped down to 16,611 in 18, and then roughly the same 16,643 in 19. But look what happened in 2020. Even with a very, very slow second quarter, we ended up at 17,076. And if you look at that, it's not that far off 2017. It's off by less than 500 sales. So, overall, it was a hell of a year, everybody. So let's look at this. Let's look at what happened in prices. So we look at prices for the last 5 years. Obviously, 16 we're at 371, went up to 372, down to 368. We lost a bit in 19, down by about $10,000 to 358. But then, of course, we got back up to 362 by the end of the year. So when I look at Edmonton, and by the way, just, the Edmonton market performed much better than the Calgary market, just so you know. I just finished recording the Calgary update, and Edmonton was a much stronger market in 2020 than Calgary was. So what do I suspect is going to happen this year? Nobody knows for sure, but we still have the fundamentals for a good market. We're still dealing with COVID. We're still going to be dealing with COVID for the next 3 quarters, maybe 4 quarters before everybody gets vaccinated, or at least we create herd immunity. So is there going to be some severe lockdown? I know you've been dealing with a bit of a lockdown, but let's face it, there could be a real severe lockdown like they're doing, say, in Quebec. And if that happens, that will affect the market in a negative way. I'm hoping that won't happen, obviously. So if that doesn't happen, I think overall, we're going to have a very decent market this year. I think it's going to be, in terms of sales, I think it'll be much the same as we had in 2020, except the second quarter is going to perform a lot better. Wouldn't surprise me if you see, price increases. I don't think there's going to be a dramatic number of more homes sold than in 2020. I'm not convinced of that. Maybe so, but I'm not convinced of that. I think it's going to be more of the same in terms of busyness and what you probably felt in the last 6 months of 2020. And again, we got to remember that different property types are going to perform differently because they have different months of inventory. So like I said earlier, you take an affordable detached property in Edmonton. Well, that's a very popular type of home that a lot of people want to get into. So in that particular property type, you're probably experiencing a seller's market. You're probably experiencing, in some cases, multiple offers in properties like that. Well, then we move into condos. Well, because condos has a lot more inventory, buyers have a lot more to choose from. Of course, they can negotiate a lot more. Well, you'll probably see prices maybe weaken a little bit, and that'll remain more in a buyer's market. You get into the real high-end market, of course, the higher-end market you go. Generally, what's going to happen is the less prices are going to go up. So I think depending on property type, your market could be very, very strong this year, especially in the affordable sort of first-time buyer range. I think you're going to see things are going to be very, very